Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back to Joe Daddy's Garage. It is Monday, December 22nd, 2025. So we have about a week left in the year, roughly. And only 3 days till Christmas. I hope you've been nice. I'm sure many of you have been naughty, but I hope, Santa overlooks that and still brings you Mustang parts and stuff. So, you saw the latest videos that I've done working on the 68 Mustang Fastback known as Fangled, and working on the suspension parts and trying to get that together. And last week I was working on a video and I was working on the back half of the car, and I had to do some drilling. So I was drilling holes up through the floor of the car, and I was putting a lot of pressure, pushing up. And you normally don't do that. That's not an action that you're typically doing, pushing up, you know. So I strained my back a little bit, and I decided, I'm not gonna force the issue. I'm not gonna cause more problems. And I elected to do the video for the Cobra Jet delivery, and that video turned out pretty good. I showed the first video that I did in that video, showing how bad the car was and what all needed to be replaced. Along with that, I showed it coming out of the back, the paint booth area, and I thought that was kind of cool. Having it roll out there, that gave the impression of it's leaving. And then of course put it in the trailer and took it down to Florida to deliver it to Tammy. She really did like it. Everybody that has seen it has liked the car. And there will be more getting done to it, obviously, and that'll come in time. I don't know when that's going to be. I don't know how long it's going to take for all the pieces to come together and make it happen. So it's there now, and that's where we're at with that project. So once I did that, once I got that out of the way, I did some cleanup here in the shop, as I talked about before. And I got rid of some stuff, reorganized some of the back section of the garage. And of course, as you all know, I picked up the Falcon, as we've talked about. And I've been trying to create a vision for that car moving forward. And I've posted some pictures about it and different things in videos. And I still feel like I'm on the right path for what I want to do. It's going to look like an old dirt track race car. And I think that excites me, actually. I like to make cars look nice. I like to have them be very drivable and comfortable and all those sort of things. But just kind of the rough looking car that runs and drives also has an appeal to me. I did my 55 Chevy years ago, where it was kind of a rat rod type of thing. And this one will be kind of a rat rod dirt track car, is how I see it. And I think it's going to come out pretty nice. Now, I've been trying to, again, visualize what I want it to be, and trying to come up with a process. So I've talked about it before, and I know a lot of people are not happy with this concept. I've talked about putting a small block Chevy engine in it because I have one, and I've actually bought some headers for that engine this past week. And I was looking around on it was a yard sale on Facebook Marketplace, or Facebook. And I went to a yard sale, and if you look over here behind me, I have a front suspension kit from Helix. It's not for the Falcon, but it's for the Falcon. I think I've come to the conclusion that I'm going to make it work. It's for a 38 Ford truck. So this kit, you have to customize it. It's not like the TCI kit, where it's built for that car. And you basically assemble pieces together and everything falls within limits. This system is different. You have to notch the channel to make it fit the frame that you're going to use. And then the other pieces, you have to do your own kind of fabrication. So it's a little more rough process. but the end result is going to be pretty good. Not only does it take care of, I'm going to eliminate the shock towers out of the car. We all know how that's an issue, which will make room for that Chevy 350, by the way. It'll take care of uh, it'll drop the suspension 2 inches because it has 2-inch drop spindles. And it came with a rack and pinion steering, manual rack and pinion steering. And so I'm like, things are just clicking. They're falling into place on this project. But I still can't work on it. I'm not going to work on it for a while. But it's just that sort of thing. So I've got a little space heater going down here in the corner. Anyway, that's kind of what's been going on. Now today I've been sorting. I sorted through some of this stuff to verify some measurements before I was considering selling this kit, but I think it's going to go in the Falcon. So beyond that, I've been working on the undercarriage pieces for the Fangled Fastback. And of course I've had to modify stuff, weld holes shut, drill new holes, fix their errors. That's how it is. It seems to be that way with just about anything anymore. So I'm making progress on that as well. Now, I'm going to, first let me do this. Dave has given me a super sticker. Whoops, wait a minute. Thank you, Dave. Merry Christmas to you. I appreciate that. Awesome. Do appreciate that so much. Okay. So the first one in tonight is Dave Tyson. Good evening, all. Good evening, Dave. Glad you're here. Rick Stevenson, coffee guy. Good evening, everyone. Good evening, Rick. I'll get my first sip of coffee now. Good stuff. Rick Gain. Hope everybody's doing well. Just can't seem to get into the Christmas season this year. Let's have some good car talk, though. Everybody give Barry the big thumbs up for Christmas. Yes. Thank you, Rick. And Richard Vogel. Rick and Richard. Good evening, Barry. I've been naughty. Please talk to San for me. Yeah. Well, I probably can't help. I'm not on Santa's nice list anymore anyway. So I don't have any access. TJ, good evening, Barry and everyone here on the live chat. Also, Merry Christmas from my family to you and yours from East Dublin, Georgia. Thank you, TJ. Steve Reed. Hello, Barry and everyone. Is everyone ready for Christmas? And hope you all have a great one. Please give thumbs up for Barry. Thank you, Steve. Yeah, I'll be honest. I'm not much of a gift giver. I'm not much of a shopper. I'm not much of a gift receiver. My wife handles all that. Here's the fun part though. When our kids and grandkids unwrap the presents, I'm just as surprised as they are. Wow, what'd you get? And they'll say, thanks, Dad. And I'll go, yeah, sure. I didn't have any hand in it. But yeah, that's usually how it goes. And I'll say this. This is something you all may find interesting. I will say that I have recorded every Christmas on video since our first son was born in 1992. So I have Christmas for every single year since 1992 on video. And one of these days I'm going to condense them and put them all together, put them on a DVD so that they can all have it. But they do get a kick out of it. They'll play the tapes, of course, and watch themselves when they were little. And I think it's a lot of fun. So I've been doing that forever. And now with the grandkids, it's even better. It's even better. Gig'em Garage. Good evening, Barry. Kevin Barth here. Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas to you. George Crackle. Hello, Barry. Hello, all. And thanks again to you, Barry, for all you do. Much appreciated. Well, thank you, George. I genuinely appreciate that. Jack W. Jack White. Hello, Barry. Merry Christmas to you and your family. Thank you, Jack. I hope that Fastback is coming together. I really do. One day I'll come back up there and we can go for a ride in it, right? I'd like to do that. Dave Conville, good evening and Merry Christmas. Thank you, Dave. Wait, there we go. Jiggy, Merry Christmas. All love the waiting room image, Barry. I'm guessing you like the thumbnail. Is that what you're saying? Yeah. Yeah, I just, thank you. I use Canva. So whenever I make videos, y'all, I've told you before, there's work involved when you make these videos. So you have to do all the filming, right? You have to create enough videos to compile together. Normally when I make a video, I'll have 20, 25, maybe 30 segments that I filmed. And out of those, I have to, those could be hours technically of footage. And I have to usually narrow those down to about an hour is what I try to do. And then from that video, I take snapshots of that video. And then I go to Canva and I create the thumbnail for the video. So I use actual shots from the video and all that. But Canva has a feature where you can do a magic, I think it's magic media. And so you tell it what you want it to do. And it took a few tries for me to get that image because it had some really goofy stuff going on. You're saying, I want Santa to be driving a Mustang and his head's through the windshield and it's all kinds of crazy stuff. It's like, come on, you can do this. So yeah, that turned out pretty nice. Mr. Mikey, Merry Christmas, y'all. Merry Christmas, Mr. Mikey. Thank you. David, the bowler hat guy. Hello all. Good evening, Barry. Good evening, sir. New Hampshire in the house. Good evening good evening, everyone, and Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas, Vincent. Fatante. Hope I say that right. Jerry is checking in. Howdy, Barry. Howdy, all. I am back on the road again. Air, actually, so can't stay in chat, but have a great car chat. Well, thank you, Jerry. Travis, top 5 patron. Good evening, all. Good evening, Travis. Glad you're here. Hope you're making progress on the 69. I know you showed me some pictures of that that headlight bucket extension. Hopefully you got that figured out. Amir, hi Barry. Hi, Merry Christmas in advance, Barry. Thank you, Amir. Glad you're here. Let's see. Vincent says you're a gift giver, Barry. You give the gift of knowledge. Well, that is true. That is true. I can't argue that. And sometimes it's sometimes it's a gift, and sometimes it's a curse. And I mean that. My friends, my family. This is kind of well known. If they get me started on something, they ask me for some information, and if I have a wealth of information, I try to give them everything I know. Whenever we're having a discussion, somebody might ask me about this or that and the other, and I might have some trivial knowledge from long ago. I might have something that I learned recently. I might have some insight into inventions or creations or stuff that people have done. And I just, here you go. You're getting it all. I don't tend to hold back. Michael Pagliarini, Merry Christmas and good evening all. Same to you. Merry Christmas. And Terry Keithley says, Barry, you missed us. I didn't see you. Wait a minute. Hold on. You're not showing up. I'm sorry, Terry, you and Betty. I'm sure you and the cats are all watching, but I don't see you in the chat. Let me go back up to the top. I got Dave, Rick Gain, Richard, TJ, Steve, Gig'em. Yeah. I don't see you. So, here you go. There's a bell for you, Terry, Betty, and the cats. I know you're watching. But I don't know why it's not showing up on the sidebar. No reason it shouldn't be. We've run into this before on occasion. I don't know why it's doing that. Why? What's going on? Sorry. Richland Fabrication. Merry Christmas to all and everyone and your families from Middle Tennessee. Thank you, sir. And it's messing me up. It's doing this at thing again. I don't know who we are. Okay, so Dave says you see him. Where was it at? Because it starts off with the first one in is Dave Tyson. And then it goes to Rick and Rich, or Rick and Rick and Rich. TJ, Steve. Yeah. I go right down the list. I don't know what happened. But I'm sorry. Nothing I have any control over at this point. Robert, the Infernal Craftsman, evening all. Sorry I'm late. Was having dinner with a friend. Well, that's always a good thing. And Pat Attic. Hello, everyone from Pennsylvania. Hello, Pat. Glad you're here. Oh, and there's a bell for Robert. And George McFly says after TJ and before Steve. There's nothing there. There's nothing literally. I mean, I can't show you, but I got TJ. The next one up is Steve. So I don't know. I apologize. I don't know what's going on. CJ Hoyt, hello all. Barry, have a wonderful Christmas. Thank you, and you have a wonderful Christmas as well. Doyle, Portland's original name was Richland, Tennessee. Okay. Interesting. Yeah, it's like I said, it's messing me up with the different name things. So, so this past weekend, I went to a yard sale, estate sale, and it's one of those unfortunate things. It's fortunate for people like me who are into cars and stuff and parts and tools, but apparently the guy that had this house, he was working on 4 different projects. Well, probably 5 or 6 different projects. But he had a 5-bay garage, 4 cars in, had a lift, toolboxes all over the place, engines, transmissions, just stuff all over this garage. And he was building a 38, I think a 38, 39 Ford hot rod pickup. And I don't know, I know what he was trying to do, right? Build this car, or truck, I should say. But apparently he developed Alzheimer's. And I can relate to that. My grandfather had Alzheimer's, and I get it. You know, I've known people who've had Alzheimer's. It's not fun. It's never good for anybody. And apparently the situation now is the family was getting rid of everything. They were getting ready to sell this property, the garage full of stuff, and they basically put up an estate sale and said, have at it. And I was shocked. Like when I got there was probably 30, 40 people. You know, all these guys showed up looking for parts and tools, people going through toolboxes, people going through drawers, all kinds of stuff. And the people selling the stuff, they didn't care at all. Like, if you made them an offer or you asked them what the price was, they didn't care. I mean, it was pennies on the dollar. And that's how I ended up with this suspension kit. This was actually for that truck, and it was sitting, in these boxes. And I said, what do you want for all this stuff in these boxes? And they gave me a price, and I said, well, I'm going to have to take it. And I mean, literally, when I say pennies on the dollar, I mean pennies on the dollar. And I was looking at buying the truck itself, but I realized I had nowhere to put it. I would have nowhere to store it. If the price was right, I probably would have done something, but I couldn't justify buying it. And they ended up selling the truck. And now I was like thinking I could use this kit. So today I put the control arms on and the spindle, and I put the rotor on that side. I did some centerline measuring, and I think the outer face to face of the rotors was right at about 58 inches. And I measured the Falcon. It's almost the same. So I'm thinking this will be, Robert and I were discussing this, and he was kind of poking at me saying, "You need to put this in the Falcon. You need to put this in the Falcon." I'm like, "Oh, I don't know if I want to do that." But then, after I did some measuring and started looking at it a little harder, I was like, I can get rid of the shock towers. It's already got that CPP suspension under it, but that doesn't matter. I can take that out as coilovers, but it gets rid of the shock towers, and so it'll clean up the engine bay. It'll give me 2-inch drop, and it'll give me a rack and pinion steering setup with a manual steering rack. And this stuff, I mean, it's all new. It's all from Helix, but like here's brand new rack and pinion that's going to change the geometry, somewhat of the steering, because the Falcon had the steering arms behind the shock towers. This will put the steering arms in front of the shock towers, and that's also going to help with oil pans. Regardless if I use a Ford or a Chevy engine or whatever, you had to fight with that oil pan that was going to be in the back, and those steering arms being in a way. So, yeah, it's gonna end up with this in the car. I'm just gonna have to do it. Also, I ended up with a disc brake kit from QuickTime Performance, I think is the company. So I have 2 rotors, calipers, the mounts, and the calipers are to set up with I didn't get them. I didn't see if they were there or not. The parking brake cables. So I can actually add a parking brake to this car as well. So I may have to buy the cables. You have to do what you have to do to make that setup work. But now I can at least have a parking brake in the car as well. And I bring that up because I watched the video. Y'all may have seen this video. I don't know who the guy was. Some sort of I don't know if he has a YouTube channel or I really don't know. All I know is I saw a video where this guy was showing off his, I want to say it was a 65 Comet or 65 Falcon, one of the two. And it had this big engine in it. He'd said how he'd done it at his home, and he painted it, did all the work himself. And he says he had spent like $200,000 on this car. Had a big blower sticking out of the hood. I mean, it was a nasty little car. And he was going to take the host for a ride in it. Well, apparently he hadn't done any upkeep with the car. Like he had built it 13 years ago or 14 years ago or something. And really just didn't do anything with it. Like never really took it out on the street. He would drive it around his neighborhood or stuff like that and never did any testing in it. And apparently they decided to go out on a main road, and the guy was driving the car, and he wasn't going like super fast, but he punched it. The car took off quick, and he went to hit the brakes, and he had no brakes. And they ended up rear-ending a minivan or an SUV or something, and it was ugly. It was ugly. That video of these guys, one guy bounced his face off the dash. They had like racing seatbelts or racing seats with seatbelts, but neither one of them had shoulder belts on, and they both bounced off the front of that car. Ended up that car was really mangled, and they probably were doing about 45 miles an hour. And the guy commented, he said, if we at least had a parking brake, it could have helped. It could have slowed us down. And ever since that, watching that video and thinking about it, I'm like, that's worth the effort. I've never really thought about the parking brake much. I've done other things to try to slow vehicles down when I've had issues, but having that emergency brake or parking brake, yeah, my car's going to have that. One way or another, it's going to have that. It was ugly. I mean, that car was beautiful car, red. Like I said, big blower out of the hood, had a big roll cage in it, all this stuff. Just a simple drive down the road, and bam, that guy ended up busting up his face on the dash of the car. And I saw a follow-up video. I was like, oh man, no, I can't see that. I don't want to ever see that happen to anybody. Let's see. Rick says, I also see the missing chat message. Who knows what YouTube is doing these days? Perhaps give the cats a few extra bells. Yeah, I don't know. I really don't know why it's not showing it. Rick says, if something were to happen to me, I have no doubt my family would sell all my stuff off for less than pennies on a dollar. Nobody cares. Well, it really was sad when it comes down to it, that this guy's projects, everything was just being pushed out the door. And I mean, it was first come, first serve. And the thing is, I bought a bunch of stuff cheap. I mean, dirt cheap. But if I didn't buy it, somebody else was going to buy it. You know what I mean? It didn't matter that I got it at a bargain price, because there's a guy waiting on my side over here to buy it, next if I don't. So I'm taking advantage of that. I'm going to get that stuff and make it happen. In fact, I picked up. I'll show you. Brand new Edelbrock carburetor, still in the plastic. Brand new. And I'll tell you this. When I said, how much do you want for this? She looked at me with, like no idea. And basically she said $30. And I'm like, I'll give you 60. I'm like, I can't give you 30 for that. I'll give you 60. And so, it was just one of those things where there was stuff all over the garage. There were boxes that were taped shut that when I went back the second time to pick up all my stuff, nobody had even opened up the boxes. And I'm like, nobody's looking in these things, And so I ended up, digging in and just, finding all kinds of different stuff, different things. Michael Pagliarini says, Autotopia LA video. I guess LA. Is that who it is? Autotopia? I don't even know. It just popped up somewhere, and thank you for that. When I saw it, I was like, oh my gosh, painful. And Dawn, I don't know, I hate this, why it's doing this @ thing. Saw that, so glad you're here, Dawn. Doyle. I put a 289 in a 72 Maverick Grabber, and I wish I could have gotten those shock towers out of the way. Couldn't change the spark plugs with the motor in it. Yeah. Yeah, and if I'm putting that Chevy in it, I got to have room. Got to have room. Gerhard, good evening, Barry and everyone. Good evening, sir. I hope it's still cold up north. And I'm late. Merry Christmas, everyone. Yes, Merry Christmas as well. Amir, what's your take on progress of Mustang with GTD and Corvette with ZR1? Giving Porsche a run for the money. Jason Camisa at Haggerty did a wonderful video about them recently. Is worth watching. Okay. I really haven't kept up with that. I know that there's been in the media, there's been talk of the latest creation Mustang, whatever they did to try to make it compete with the Corvette. And they went to the Nuremberg Ring, I think. And I think they ran a time of, 6:40 or something, 6 minutes, 40 seconds. I don't know what it was. but it was still slower than the Corvette. And you know, I don't know if that's the same Mustang you're talking about. That's I've seen that on videos where they're trying to compete with the Corvette with this special edition Mustang. And you know, I mean, I'm glad they're out there doing it, but the Mustang was never really designed to compete with the Corvette anyway. You know, Corvette, that's kind of all on its own. I don't think anybody really ever had anything that was built to compete with the Corvette, unless you go back to the Cobras and stuff like that. The GT40, yeah, we know that. But as a production run, the Mustangs and the Camaros and the Cudas, all we're in the same kind of bracket. But they're trying to do stuff with that Mustang for sure. Robert says mid 80s here a few days this week. Yeah, that's perfect Christmas weather. Perfect Christmas weather. And Terry Keithley, Barry, Robert up on. Wait a minute, hold on. Barry, Robert. Upon. Sorry, it says up on. It's upon my demise. Find a JD 690 long stick, dig the deepest hole, and put all my belongings in it. Now I get it. I get it. Yeah, when it says up on, I was like, what? But it says upon. That's what you're trying to say. I get it. Yeah. Well, and I had a brief conversation with my oldest son, and I think I don't know if I mentioned to Robert as well. If something were to happen to me, I would definitely need like Roger and Robert and several other people to come over here and manage whatever they're going to do with it. Because, I mean, I have lots of tools. I have lots of equipment. And, I've tried to started marking some of my stuff, like put a dollar figure on it, just in case. Like, I have a couple items, I've written some dollars on it. Like, this is what it cost. So at least they have some idea of what they should be, selling it for. Even if it's half price, it's still better than pennies on the dollar. Richard says, at least you had a decent estate sale to go to. Around here, it's mostly hoarder houses, and everything is top dollar. Yeah. I was really shocked because we don't often see stuff like that. I mean, and it was the funny part was, I had sold something, or no, when I bought those headers for the 350, I bought them off a guy on Facebook, and he said, "Did you hear about that auction or that estate sale that's coming up tomorrow?" And I said, "No, what estate sale?" And he said, "Oh, there's this one that's all these cars and tools and equipment." And I thought, I don't even know if I want to go to that because they're probably going to want too much money. And he's like, "No," he said, "these people don't care." And so we found it, and I was able to get to it. And so I appreciate him sharing that with me. But yeah, it's few and far between that you run into these kind of opportunities. Gerhard, I'm curious what rear axle will go on to the Fangled. Currently, the plan, if unless I change my mind, and I might, depends on what I find, what I end up doing, I've got a Curry 9-inch rear end that is for the early Mustangs. So it's the narrower rear end, okay? And on one hand, I want to use it for this project. On the other hand, I'm thinking this has more value than, like, is it worth it for me to use it? Because I'm able to I had the rear end that I had in Jade was a 60 for my 68 Mustang was like an extra narrow rear end. Okay. And I sold that. And the guy that I sold it to, I was thinking, you know what? Maybe he'd like to sell that back to me, and I could sell him the Curry. Because I have a hard time making myself, the car is a rough, kind of a rough car, I guess. However, I have that rear end. I have the axles. I have the chunk. I've got everything to put that together, and it would go right underneath that Falcon because I'm going to put a 4-link in it as well. I'm not putting leaf springs under it, so it's going to have a 4-link setup. And I've been debating on that. Like I have no problem using the Curry. I know it'll work, but I'm also like, well, I know somebody else might want that for a more high-end build, let's say. So I'm kind of debating on that process right now. But it'll end up with a Ford 9-inch under. Steve Reed going to be in the 70s the rest of the week here in Paducah. Yeah, I haven't looked. Let me see what the weather is supposed to be. Yeah, we're going to be 60, high 60s for the rest of this week, and then it's going to drop 20 degrees Monday. So it'll be nice. It'll be a nice week. Robert, you're welcome to any of my stuff if I were to go first. Yeah. I just don't want to have. I don't want to have my wife selling stuff thinking that I didn't pay anything for it. Like, yeah, this is, I don't know, give me $1, you can have it. Rick, it's actually kind of sad realizing that when I pass, all my stuff really will be meaningless and nobody will care. My sister has said she'll throw everything in the dumpster. Well, that's not cool. And I wish I had an easy way to respond to that, you know. It's just not a fun thing to think about. And, you know, maybe there's a way that you could create maybe make a will and have stuff get donated to local schools or to a organization that can use it to generate funds for, like, I know you have vision, issues. Maybe you could do something like that where they could take advantage of it, Kind of think of it that way. Maybe don't even let her have that chance. Take it out of her hands completely and direct it where you can make it beneficial for other people. That's why I would probably look at that. Let's see. Scott says, good evening, Barry. Good evening, Scott. Scott the Burt. I'm guessing that's what we're saying is. Or Scott Hebert. not Scott the Burt. Scott Hebert. Sorry, man. And I hate this @ thing. I don't know why it's doing it. Richard says, what size MIG wire do you use for the heavier welding on Fangold? I use 30,000s. Yep. That's all it needs. 30,000s, the DP200. Poured it right in. Beautiful. Gerhard, I've told my wife and son to auction off all my stuff. If I'm no longer around, there is a lot of stuff. Yeah. Well, and that's the thing. I know when my brother passed away, his I hate to say wife, his the woman who took over his properties before he died, she did that. She sold off everything that he owned, every single thing, and then sold his properties, and then built herself a new house. So, yeah, and I think about that because we all have connections to stuff and things, and we all know that our way we look at a value of something, somebody else may not. It's just like this simple little Stanley knife right here. Okay, this came with the when I bought all this stuff. This was in the box. This was in one of the boxes, and so of course you get a tool, you're gonna look at it and try to make it see if it works. And I noticed that it has dual razor blades. And I thought, that's pretty cool. And they both work. And I was like looking at the years of wear and tear on this thing. You know, when you rub off a name on something, you've used this thing a lot. And, you know, the guy that owned it was probably, you know, used this thing all the time, or it was handy for him to use. And who knows what he may have done with it. He may have made something using this knife, or and it had a great connection to it. But to me and to you and everybody else, this is just a Stanley razor blade. This doesn't mean much. You can buy these for, I don't know, $10, something like that. But you know, we get these emotional connections to our tools or our cars or um, pictures, whatever. All my little Hot Wheels stuff. You know, I got these like little Hot Wheels sitting around. My grandson, he can have all that stuff if he wants. I don't care. You know, but nobody's gonna look at this knife and go, "Dad used that for something." You know, it matters. No, it's going to go in a box and be sold with everything else. And so that's, you know, it's us that have those connections to things, and we all need to kind of assess that some and go, you know, like I was telling Rick, if you channel that in another direction, take it out of their hands. If somebody's going to get rid of stuff or dispose of your lifelong collections, have an auction and tell everybody, you know, this money's going towards this charity, this cancer foundation. It's going towards whatever, you know, Shriners, all those different things. You can take advantage of that and maybe control the end result. But ultimately, you're like you're saying, most people they're not going to care about what we did with this stuff. Scott Hebert, 1 to 3 inches of snow tomorrow. Good for you. No. CJ Hoyt, yep, they're just going to dump all our good stuff. Yeah. Well, that's what I'm saying. I'm hoping somebody gets involved if and when something happens to me and they know, hey, this is actually worth something. Scott, fortunately for me, my 31-year-old son is into classic cars. He has a 2022 Ford Mustang Mach 1 with only 2,000 miles on it. I trust he won't sell my stuff. They're cheap. He won't sell my stuff cheap. Okay. Yeah. Well, and that's, like I said, I've talked to my oldest son. I'll probably talk to my other son and just say, hey, look, get help. Like these people that were cleaning out this garage, they got no help at all. They had no idea. And they would have probably made a small fortune, or they made a small profit, let's say, in my mind, but they would have made a much bigger profit had they reached out to somebody, some car person like me. They could have, I mean, just saying, come by my place and help me figure out what this is worth. What was crazy about it was there was stuff there that they were selling. There was a Harbor Freight 20-ton press, right? I would have liked to have had that. I would like to have had that press. It was brand new, you know, just put assembled and never used. It looked like it was never used. And somebody asked her, "What do you want for that?" And she looked at it and she said, $400. And the guy was like, "Oh, okay. Well, that's like $150, $170 unit at Harbor Freight." But she had no idea. And then she saw a drill press. There was a drill press, a Sears 10-inch drill press. You know, like I've got the little drill press over there from Northern Tools. It was about that size. She had no idea. Somebody said, "What do you want for that?" And she said $800. Like she thought it was some fancy machine. And it was just a $50 drill press. So it was all over the place. So I mean, I really just get help. Ask for people to help out. Oh, it says dirt cheap. Scott says, okay. I trust he won't sell my stuff dirt cheap. Gotcha. Okay. Amir says, I follow his channel, Mr. Good Pliers. He does videos on auctions in Kansas. It is heartbreaking to see decades of work a man for a man goes to waste like that. Yes, I agree. I agree. You know, it's like I talked about it before. Whenever the junkyard property was sold, the shop was still there, the house was still there, and I would go visit because I had such memories. I won't say fond memories, but I mean, some were fond, but I had such memories of that junkyard that even though we didn't own the property, I always felt good about going there and looking at the garage, looking at the house that I grew up in, and now it's gone. Everything is gone. You can't even tell where the house was. They destroyed everything, crunched it all up, threw it in a dumpster, and got it out of there. And now it was last time I was there was really depressing because there was no more connection to that land. Other than my brother had planted about 12 Christmas trees. He used to get live Christmas trees, and when the Christmas was over, he would plant those trees. And so there's a huge row of various Christmas or trees, pine trees, evergreens, up behind where the house used to be. That's the only and no anybody who goes by there is not going to even know why they're there. They'll think, "Oh, that's weird. Why are those trees growing there?" But that's the only thing it still anchors that place at all. Rick says, "I don't think the younger generation understands the meaning of sentimental value." No, they don't. It's a throwaway society. Everybody's become throwaway society. You don't know how to use it, don't know how to fix it, throw it away and get rid of it. It's like I've made my video where I had that little wheel horse tractor. I love that little tractor. I use that to tow cars around, move stuff around. I absolutely love that little tractor. And I can take my grandkids for rides on it. They're able to drive it around the yard, enjoy the little bit of slow driving with those. But a younger generation, they look at that as just an old tractor. Like, who cares? No, it's already outlasted everything that has been built in the last 30 years. That's a 1964 Wheel Horse 604. Built like a little tank. And you don't have hardly anything in the past 20, 30 years that can stand up to that little tractor. But yet, people will have something, throw it away and go buy a new one because they can't figure out how to start it. I mean, it's just all kinds of crazy stuff. Michael, I am putting my coilover in. They recommend using a export brace. I was told the two-piece setup the car came with is not a export. What would be the difference if that's true? I didn't know they made a two-piece. I guess I'm not familiar with what you're referring to. The export brace is one piece. It runs from the shock tower to the pinch weld or the weld of the cowl and back to the shock tower. That's the only one I know of as far as what's called an export brace. Now, I don't know what you have, as far as or what you're trying to talk about, but the export brace that I know of connects both shock towers to the cowl. They do make variations of those. I've seen Jerry, the Money Pit. He has one that actually has mounts that had end links that you could torque, and you could put pressure on that. Instead of having it at a fixed location, you could actually turn the turnbuckles and pull them out, or pull them in or push them out, I should say. But that's the only export brace that I know of. I have not seen one. It's like a two-piece. Dave Tyson could not find it. That is why boxes were not open. Oh no, actually, it was out in the open. These boxes, these parts, it was all out in the open. And there were U-Haul boxes around the garage that were just taped shut, like packing boxes. They were all taped shut. Nobody even opened them. Nobody was looking in those boxes. In fact, I don't know where I put it. In one of those boxes. Where did I put it? Oh, there it is. One of the boxes said Air Tools. Brand new Harbor Freight Earthquake X2. Never had a fitting in it. It still has the cap on it. And it was just sitting in this box with a bunch of cheap Air Tools. I'm like, oh yeah, I'm going to get that. I don't need it. I may end up selling it, but I could not let it just sit there. Harvey checking in. Hi, Barry from New Jersey. Rally Cat Garage. Glad you're here, Harvey. Scott says, my son also makes a good living off estate sales and porcelain signs. Oh, well, that's nice. You don't run into those anymore very often. Rick Gain, it's probably definitely time to start thinking about a will. Yeah. Yeah, that's something my wife and I are doing early next year. We're gonna have a will made because you never know. I'm not saying that it makes any difference. My brother passed away at 59 years old. Unexpectedly. I won't say that it's suspicious. I won't say that. But he ended up passing away at 59 in good health. So next year, that's my year. I'm 59. Now, I'm not the same as my brother. He didn't take very good care of himself, like exercise or walking or, whatever. But he died under suspicious circumstances, in my mind. So, but still, that number was 59. Who knows? So we're gonna take care of a will next year, early next year. I don't know, Julia. I'm gonna say welcome because I don't know who you are right now. If you're a regular, because this stupid thing is killing me. If I'm given notice in time, I'm heading out to my stuff with a gross of Post-it notes and felt marker. Yes, good choice. I just write in the boxes. If I have boxes of stuff, just write on it. Jeffrey, we are the caretakers of all our items until we pass on. When I plant a tree, I think if whoever owns my house in 30 years will enjoy it. Well, that's a great idea. That's a great way to think of that. Yeah. And let me this is not quite the same, but whenever we attach ourselves to things or the idea that somebody gave us something, and I'm going to relate this to a relative. So a relative of mine gave me a plant. Okay. Well, the plant died for whatever reason. Like, it shouldn't have, but it did. The relative came to visit and said, "Where's the plant that I gave you?" And I said, "Well, it died." "What do you mean it died?" I said, "Well, I don't know, I guess maybe it froze. I don't know." I was like, I don't have an answer. And my relative was like, "But I gave that to you." Like, implying that it has more value to it because that person had given it to me. And I said, "Well, I'm sorry, it died, But the point is, we get connected to these things by virtue of somebody gave me that, just like this knife. If I give this to my grandson and I say, "Don't you ever lose this. This is my favorite knife. I want you to have it and think of me every time you use it." 9 times out of 10, they're not even going to use it now because this is a special knife. You've created a persona or an idea that this is special, right? It's just like the like I talked about the Hot Wheels cars. You look at all this, and they said 1 of 10,000 made. Oh, what do I do with it? Go play with it. Let your kids play with it. that sort of thing. I've made those choices. I made those mistakes myself. You're trying to do things. You give my kids something, and I think it has a value to it. To them, it has no value, and now years later, it has no value, and they didn't get to enjoy it then. Because we're all kind of twisted in that way. Jeff Norrisnet just want to say hi and wish everyone a Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas to you, Jeff. Pat says two-piece was what the original ones were. Okay. Yeah, so I know you're talking about the original being the early generation of cars, because, in 67 and 8 and up, they had the individual two-piece arms. They had one on each side that were unboltable. And then the previous cars, the 65 and 6, they were welded in. I don't know if 67 has those or not. I know 68 it unbolts. But they had the welded in tower braces. But the export brace went separately. So that's why I haven't really looked into the older ones. Gerhard, that is why I told you on Facebook the other day that I would take that little tractor over the Mustang. Yeah, it's a cool little tractor. It really is. Cold Sweep Inc. I know. Late to the party, but hi from Green Mountain or from Mountain Green, Utah. Yeah, and I know your name, and I apologize because this whole thing changes the name on the banner thing. I don't know how to change it. I don't know why it's doing that. Yeah. There's nothing. I don't have an option to fix that. Gerhard was on YouTube where I saw the tractor. It was on YouTube. Because I've used it in several videos. I've used it to make pull the Mustangs. I've used it to pull the trailer in and out. I mean, it is such a powerful little tractor, and it's so much fun for using it like that. Jeff's Amazing Train World. Hello from Geneva, Illinois, USA. U.S. Merry Christmas, everyone. Merry Christmas, Jeff. Glad you're here. Rick Gain, there's also the greedy people I have in my life that are just willing to come and take everything because they know what it's worth. Yeah, unfortunately, and there's both sides. Michael, my car is one part spot welded to the shock tower, second part bolts to the tower and the firewall. Okay. One part welded to the shock tower. Yeah. Second part bolts to the tower and the firewall. Okay. Then that's unless I'm confused, I'm going to say that's a standard, your standard tower braces. Because the early cars, like I said, they had a little plate welded on the backside of the shock tower. And it went to the cowl. Like there was a piece bolted to the cowl. But the later cars, it was a one piece. It was like a big V shape. It was one piece that connected from the shock towers to the cowl. Jeff, this holiday is about the birth of Jesus, not things. We have gone too far with what? Too far with I once. Oh yeah, that's typical. Rick says, I have a pocket knife my father used to carry when he was a young boy. I'll never part with it, and I'm the only one who knows what it's really worth sentimentally. Yeah, I get that. Started my car the other day and noticed the fuel filter leaking in front of the carburetor again. Caught it before the fire started this time. Definitely have to rethink that situation. Yeah. Yep. You got to be very careful with that. Have to make a hard line that goes from the pump directly to the carburetor and put the fuel filter before the pump. That's a good idea. Simone is checking in, hooked on classics. Welcome, Simone. Glad you're here. I'll say Merry Christmas to you as well. And she says Merry Christmas all. Yes. Yeah. Yeah, I say Merry Christmas. I don't do Happy Holidays or whatever. No. Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. That's how it works. That's how it's always worked. So, like I said, I'm working on the TCI kit on the back of the Fangold Fastback, and I pointed out on a Patreon video that the holes and the alignments, everything wants to fight. And I had the same situation when I did the Brooklyn Pony car. I had to make plates and change things and, correct the flaws in the design. And I don't blame one company or the other. It's kind of the way it works. So like TCI makes something and they may have designed it 15, 20 years ago, who knows. And then people like Dynacorn make something and it's a little bit different than the original. TCI may have made something like the original or for the original, and then they make adjustments to their design or something changes in the pressings of the steel, and then things just don't line up. So it's kind of like you have to understand that when you're doing these things, it's not, well, as we know, it's never going to be, hey, just throw some bolts in it and you're done. It doesn't work that way. And you have to roll with the punches, and figure out, hey, I'm close. What can I do to make this work? And that's what I'm in the middle of right now. So I'm redoing and modifying some of the parts. The end result will be the same. It'll do what it's supposed to do, but I have to make it do what I want it to do to make it work. Michael, a will is never a bad idea. Just make sure your family knows where it's at and what's in it before things go south. My sister took me for a ride when it came to the house. Yeah. Unfortunately, I hear that more often. And I know that if, like me and I have two sisters now, there's going to be some headbutting more between them than between, me. Because I'm like, just whatever. I'm not going to jump through hoops and say, I want this, I want that, we should do this, we should do that. I mean, I'll help with the situation, but it's not going to be a smooth transition. I know that much. But I'm also, like for my parents and stuff, I'm just staying out of the way for the most part. Just stay out of the way. TD, what brand base and clear do you like? What brand to avoid? That is a good question. Now, let me give you a bell for being here. So, it's a tough question to answer, to be honest. The clear coat that I used on the Cobra Jet was PPG Deltron DCU 2021. And it works fine. It's a high solids clear. I've talked to people at SEMA who use that same clear coat for their high-end cars, and it looks great. It can be a little difficult to spray. It's a little more challenging because it's a high solids clear coat. Now, I stay away from like really cheap stuff unless I'm doing, like, somebody has a collision car and they're just wanting to get it back on the road. They don't want to spend a bunch of money, so I'll use the cheaper clears in those instances. I think I've had better luck overall with some of the European clears. I don't know what they do different. I don't know what the chemical makeup is, but I've had good luck with, and I don't have a name brand to tell you with those European clears, but I've heard good things about, like I can't even bring them to the top of my mind right now. Some of these European type clears. I use PPG, like I use the Deltron paint on the Cobra Jet. It's a much more expensive paint, but the reason is you get much more consistent color. So if you buy, to give you some perspective here, if you buy the cheapest green, whatever, paint that you can buy, and it has colors in it that are black and yellow and green and whatever to make that color. Most of the time they don't use black. They use a brown. So whenever the color, you're looking at it, you may see it look better on another vehicle, but the high-end paints use like true blacks and true reds to get better color. So it's kind of like the same way with clears. You've got like the stuff that's cheap, and it may take multiple coats of that to get a finish that you want. You know, when you're using the base coat system, if you use a cheap paint, let's just go down that road. Let's say you want to spray a vehicle whatever color, and you put primer on it, and you come back and you start spraying it with a cheap paint. You may put 4 coats of the cheap stuff on versus 2 coats of the expensive stuff, because the pigments are better and they cover better. Okay, so that's just kind of how you look at paint. But the clear coats, there's so many variables in the chemical makeup that it's hard to say use this or use that. I can tell you that I've used DCU 2021, and I may end up using it again on a future project, or I may go back to the European clears and use those because I'm more comfortable with those. But I've learned a lot. I learn a lot every time I spray. You know, I've said it before. I don't consider myself. I know I can paint. I don't like to paint. I really don't. And I say I don't consider myself a painter. I can make a good product, but what I have to go through to get there is usually too much. So I don't know if that answers your question or not, but that's kind of where I'm at with how. I don't know how else to answer it, because I can't point at one and say this one's better than this one, or it depends on your skill, depends on your experience, depends on your paint gun. There's a lot of variables that come into play as well. Simone said, I'm going to work on the Cortina tomorrow. It's been a while. I think the thermostat is stuck. Oh, that's doesn't sound fun. Rick, funerals and weddings bring out the worst in people. Yeah. Well, they bring out the worst, and sometimes they bring out the best. Travis, I should be able to get all the major welding done soon. I'm thinking by the first of the year I get it on a rotisserie. So excited. Well, that's good. Rick, kind of stinks that you have to pay so much money for paint that you're not even supposed to be able to see. Yeah. Well, it's the quality of the colors involved, I guess, is what it comes down to. Travis, doors, hood, and front fenders all finally fit good. That's good to hear. Richard, I bought so many Mustang parts this year that I wound up in the doghouse. Yeah, not a good sign. And Doyle, have you sprayed Nason from O'Reilly's? I'm considering them. I heard it's a DuPont product. I priced it. It's definitely not cheap. Let me tell you this. Oh, I have not sprayed that, so I don't know. Believe it or not, I found the best pricing on eBay. So the DCU 2021, if you buy it at PPG, it's $700 a kit for clear coat. $700 at PPG. You buy it off of eBay, it's half that price. It's half that price, and it's probably a product that is, I won't say out of date, but it was made like 6 months or a year ago, whatever. It's still sealed up. It's still in a can. There's nothing wrong with it. I've talked to my PPG rep. He's told me before, as long as the can has not been open, it's good for a couple of years. You know, you can easily get away with that. But look on eBay. there's. I was trying to remember one of the products that I saw on there that a friend of mine who paints recommended, and I can't remember the name of it. There's a T in there somewhere, and I don't remember what it was. But look on eBay for that stuff. James O'Brien, welcome, James. Do you like or have used any of the billet hood hinges? Yes, I have used billet hood hinges on, it was the Brooklyn Pony car, the 66 Mustang that I did about 8 years ago. I think it was 8 years ago. Personally, I'm not impressed by those. Yeah, they look cool, but they really don't do much. I won't use them. I would never spend the money on one of those billet hood hinges. Never. It's just not my thing. It looks cool, but if they break, and they do break, the little rod ends will break, then you're having to fix stuff. Typically what I use on the Mustangs in particular is the Dynacorn premium hinges. Don't get the Taiwan stuff that comes in a weird looking box, has a lion on the side of it or whatever it is. Don't buy the junk. Don't buy those. Buy Dynacorn premium hinges. Those hinges are heavier metal. They are smooth as can be, and I trust them. I did a video on those on Jade. If you go back and look at the Jade videos, I did a comparison between original hood hinges, the cheap Lion one, whatever it is. I forget what they call it. There's some sort of crappy generic Taiwanese Golden Lion or something, Golden Legion, some junk. Don't even buy those. We put the Dynacorn ones in, and it was just like butter. Trust me. Use those. Good question, by the way. Simone, too many car parts litter my home. I don't want them out in the cold. Haha. Yeah. Well, I keep a heater going. I have a heater out here, so my parts stay nice and warm. Pat says, great tip on the clear coat. Thank you. Yeah, you're welcome. Yeah, I mean, and I saw somebody else bring up, George says, we lost both our local PPG and DuPont retailers. Any thoughts on TCP Global or Eastwood products? I'm thinking TCP might have been that one my buddy was using. I think that's TCP Global. I have not used Eastwood, so I don't have a recommendation on those. Gosh, I know your name. I know your face. I can't think of it right now. I know you've got a Cougar. I know you do dry ice blasting, but I can't put your name on there. Cold Sweep says multiple hunting and fishing trips out of the way, and it's time to get tear back into the 67 Cougar. Definitely going to see progress this winter. Awesome. Rick Game, my brain did a double take when you said Brooklyn Pony was 8 years ago. I didn't think that much time had passed so quickly. Yeah, me too. Michael, I personally wouldn't use anything from O'Reilly's. I just don't trust their products anymore. What's interesting about that, O'Reilly's sells, it was a paint line that I've used, and I can't remember what it was, but I know you could get it through O'Reilly's. In fact, O'Reilly's, whenever I need a data sheet for like mixing PPG products, O'Reilly's has the data sheets online. That's what I was thinking about. I would look for a data sheet and it would pull up on O'Reilly's. I thought that was interesting. Annette is checking in. Hello, everyone. Hello, Annette. Glad you made it. Richard, did you get a good deal on the headers? I think I did because I ended up with a set of stainless steel headers for Chevy small block and a Weber carburetor, Weber 4 barrel. Now, I don't I don't need the carburetor. They came with them. I was happy to get the headers. The uh, the guy wanted $60 for the nice stainless steel headers and the Weber carburetor, which is identical to an Edelbrock. It's the same thing. So I ended up with another carburetor that I don't need. TD says DuPont is now Axalta. Okay, didn't know that. And Terry Keith says Transtar. Yeah, okay, Transtar. I think that was the other one that I was trying to come up with. Thank you for that, Terry. And I still don't know why your chat never showed up. That still bugs me. You know, I can go back all the way to the top here, and there's nothing there. So I don't know what happened to it. But I'm still glad you're here. Okay. I think I'm getting ready to call it a night. I know, Annette, you just got here, but I'm going to call it a night. My voice is starting to feel rough, and that's usually a sign for me to quit. And yeah, David, don't forget to give a thumbs up. Yes, thank you for that. Simone, I wonder if a Mustang engine would fit the Cortino. You can make it fit. You can make it fit. Just need a hammer and a plasma cutter. You'll make it fit. Okay, so I'm going to call it a night. I want to tell everybody Merry Christmas. I plan to be back next Monday, whatever that date is going to be. That's what, 9 days. So, well, I guess it'll be right after New Year's, right? Let me look at I got to get my mind on this so I can make sure I'm on the right page. So, no, that'll be the 29th. Sorry, too early for New Year's. So it'll be 29th. So I'll be back for that Monday. And then the following Monday will be January 5th, which will be after New Year's. So, again, Merry Christmas to everybody. I'm glad you've been part of this, and I'm glad you were able to hang out with me tonight. And I really hope you enjoyed the conversation in the chat tonight. But that'll be it. And until next time, take care of yourselves. See ya.